Wohngeld in Germany, who can apply, how it works, and what you need to know. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Life in Germany. If you live in Germany, you already know that housing can be one of the biggest monthly expenses. Rent has to be paid. Heating and other living costs add up. And especially for households with a lower income, these expenses can become a real financial burden. But there is a form of government support in Germany that many people have heard about without really knowing how it works. It is called Wohngeld. So, what exactly is Wohngeld? Who can apply for it? Can you receive Wohngeld even if you are working? What about foreigners living in Germany? How is the amount calculated? Which documents do you need? And where do you actually apply? In this video, I will explain the most important things you should know about Wohngeld in Germany, in simple English. But before we begin, an important disclaimer. This video is intended for general information and educational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, financial, or official government advice. Wohngeld regulations, eligibility requirements, income calculations, benefit amounts, and administrative procedures can change. Your entitlement also depends on your individual circumstances. For current and binding information, always check the official website of your responsible Wohngeldbehörde or Wohngeldstelle and the relevant official German government authorities. With that said, let's begin. What is Wohngeld? First of all, what does the word Wohngeld actually mean? Wohnen means to live or to reside, and Geld means money. In simple terms, Wohngeld is a government subsidy that helps eligible households with their housing costs. And there is one very important thing to understand. Wohngeld is not only for unemployed people. In fact, people who work may also qualify for Wohngeld if their household income and circumstances meet the relevant requirements. There are two main forms of Wohngeld. If you are renting your home, the benefit is called Mietzuschuss. Miete means rent, and Zuschuss means subsidy or allowance. So, Mietzuschuss is a contribution towards eligible rental housing costs. But what if you own your home? Under certain conditions, people who own and live in their own home may also qualify for Wohngeld. This form is called Lastenzuschuss. So remember, Mietzuschuss, generally for eligible tenants. Lastenzuschuss, generally for eligible owner-occupiers. World Health Organization can get Wohngeld. Now we come to the most important question. Am I eligible for Wohngeld? Unfortunately, there is no simple universal income figure that answers this question for everyone. You cannot simply say, if you earn less than 2,000 euros, you receive Wohngeld, or if you earn more than 2,000 euros, you don't. The calculation is more individual than that. Several factors determine whether you qualify and, if so, how much you may receive. 3 factors are particularly important. Number 1. Your household. How many eligible people live in your household? Are you living alone? Are you a couple? Do you have children? The number and circumstances of the household members can affect the calculation. Number 2. Your household income. The responsible authority considers the relevant income of the household according to the Wohngeld rules. And this is important. The calculation of income for Wohngeld purposes does not necessarily work exactly the same way as simply looking at the net salary that arrives in your bank account every month. So be careful when comparing yourself with somebody else. And number 3, your housing costs. For tenants, the eligible rent is an important part of the calculation. For eligible owner-occupiers, different qualifying housing-related financial burdens may be considered. And there is another important factor. Where in Germany do you live? Housing costs in Germany vary enormously. An apartment in Munich may cost considerably more than a comparable apartment in a smaller town. For this reason, municipalities are assigned different Mietstufen, or rent levels, within the Wohngeld system. So two households with similar incomes and similar family situations may still receive different results depending on where they live and their eligible housing costs. That is why it is always important to check your own individual situation. Can foreigners receive Wohngeld? Now let's discuss a question that is especially relevant to many viewers of life in Germany. Can foreigners receive Wohngeld? Being a foreign national does not automatically exclude you from Wohngeld. Depending on your resident status and individual circumstances, you may be eligible. However, your resident situation, the benefits you already receive, and other individual factors can play a role. So if you are a foreign national living in Germany and you are unsure whether your resident status allows you to receive Wohngeld, don't rely solely on information from friends, Facebook groups, online forums, or social media. Ask your responsible Wohngeld authority and check the current official information. Your individual situation matters. World Health Organization may not be eligible. Another important point is that Wohngeld is generally not intended to duplicate housing support that is already included in certain other social benefits. In other words, if you receive another government benefit under which your housing costs are already taken into account, you may generally be excluded from receiving Wohngeld at the same time. There are also special rules for certain students and trainees, particularly in connection with benefits such as BAföG or Berufsausbildungsbeihilfe, often called BAB. But please be careful here. Individual situations can become complicated. For example, the situation of one person living alone can be different from that of a household containing several people with different eligibility statuses. So don't automatically decide, I receive this benefit, therefore I definitely cannot receive Wohngeld. And don't automatically assume the opposite either. Check with the responsible authority. How much Wohngeld can you receive? And now we come to the question almost everyone wants answered. How much money can I get? There is no single amount. And this is exactly why I am not going to tell you. You will receive 200 euros. Or a family will receive 500 euros. That would be misleading. Your actual Wohngeld depends on the legally relevant circumstances of your household. These include, among other things, the number of household members, the relevant household income, the eligible housing costs, and factors connected with the location of your home. There are Wohngeld calculators available online that can help you get an initial idea of whether you might qualify and approximately how much you might receive. But remember this sentence. An online calculator can provide an estimate. The responsible Wohngeld authority makes the official decision. Never make an important financial decision based solely on an unofficial online calculator. Where do you apply? If you think you might qualify, the next question is, where do I apply? Wohngeld is handled by the responsible local authority. You will often see terms such as Wohngeldstelle or Wohngeldbehörde. Depending on where you live, the responsible office may be connected to your city, municipality, or district administration. A simple way to begin is to search online for Wohngeld, plus the name of your city or district. For example, Wohngeld, Frankfurt, Wohngeld, Berlin, Wohngeld, München, or Wohngeld, Köln. But there is something very important here. Make sure you are using an official government or local authority website. Don't assume that the first website appearing in a search result is the official authority. Many places in Germany now provide information about Wohngeld online, and depending on the responsible authority, online application options may also be available. Which documents do you need? German bureaucracy and documents. Yes, we have arrived at that part of the video. The exact documents required depend on your personal circumstances and your responsible authority. However, several documents are commonly relevant. First, of course, The Wohngeld application. If you are renting, you will generally need evidence concerning your rent and housing situation. This may include your Mietzuschuss, your tenancy agreement. You will also need documents showing your income. You may hear the term Einkommensnachweis, proof of income. If you are employed, this may include your Gehaltsabrechnungen, your payslips. Depending on your circumstances, the authority may ask for further documents concerning your household, income, housing costs, or other relevant matters. So here is a practical tip. Before sending your application, look carefully at the document checklist provided by your responsible Wohngeldstelle. Missing documents can delay the process. And keep copies of everything you submit. If you apply online, save the confirmation. If you send documents by post, keep copies. If you receive letters from the Wohngeldstelle, keep them together in one folder. Believe me, being organized makes dealing with German bureaucracy much easier. When should you apply? This part is particularly important. Don't wait unnecessarily if you believe you may be entitled to Wohngeld. As a general rule, Wohngeld begins from the month in which the application is received, provided the legal requirements are fulfilled. So let's use a simple example. Imagine you become eligible in August and submit your application during August. The relevant entitlement may begin from August. But if you wait until September before applying, you should not simply assume that the authority will automatically pay Wohngeld retrospectively for August. That is why the timing of your application can matter. If you believe you may qualify, check the current requirements and contact your Wohngeldstelle promptly, and always keep proof of when your application was submitted. What happens after you apply? Once your application has been submitted, the Wohngeld Authority examines your information and documents. If something is missing, they may contact you and ask for additional documents. Don't ignore these letters or messages. Respond within the requested time. Once the authority has made its decision, you will normally receive an official document. This is called a Wohngeldbescheid. The German word Bescheid is extremely useful to know when dealing with German authorities. It basically refers to an official administrative decision. If your application is approved, your Wohngeldbescheid will contain important information, including the amount granted and the relevant approval period. Read the Bescheid carefully. Don't simply look at the amount and put the letter in a drawer. Check the dates. Check the information used in the calculation, and keep the document safely. Is Wohngeld paid forever? Number Wohngeld is normally approved for a particular period. You may see the German term Bewilligungszeitraum. That means the approval period. Look at the end date stated in your Wohngeldbescheid. If you continue to need Wohngeld after that period, you may need to submit another application for continued support. Don't wait until the very last moment. Check the current procedure with your responsible authority and prepare the necessary documents in good time. What if something changes? Your life doesn't remain exactly the same forever. Maybe you receive a salary increase. Maybe you change jobs. Maybe someone moves into your household. Maybe someone moves out. Perhaps your rent or another relevant part of your housing situation changes. Changes in your circumstances may affect your Wohngeld entitlement or the amount you receive. So don't assume that a change is unimportant. If something significant changes, check whether you are required to inform the Wohngeld Authority. Always provide complete and truthful information. If you're uncertain, ask. It is much better to clarify something early than to discover later that important information should have been reported. My practical Wohngeld checklist. So, let's make the entire process simple. If you think Wohngeld might be relevant to you, follow these steps. Step 1. Check whether you might qualify. Use current information from official German sources. Step 2. Find your responsible Wohngeldstelle or Wohngeldbehörde. Step 3. check which application form and documents your local authority requires. Step 4. Prepare your documents carefully. Your Mietzuschuss, proof of housing costs, proof of income, pay slips where applicable, and any additional documents requested. Step 5. Submit the application as early as possible if you believe you are eligible. Step 6. Keep copies and proof of submission. Step 7. Respond quickly if the Wohngeldstelle asks you for additional documents. Step 8. When you receive your Wohngeldbescheid, read it carefully and note the Bewilligungszeitraum. And finally, keep your information up to date and report relevant changes when required. Final thoughts. Wohngeld can sound complicated when you first hear about it. There are calculations, income rules, rent levels, application forms, documents, and of course, plenty of German administrative terminology. But the basic idea is actually quite simple. Wohngeld is designed to help eligible households with their housing costs when their financial circumstances meet the legal requirements. And there are 3 words I want you to remember from this video. Income, household, housing costs. These are among the central factors determining whether Wohngeld may be relevant to you. And if you are a foreigner living in Germany, don't automatically assume that Wohngeld is not available to you. At the same time, don't assume that you are automatically entitled to it simply because your rent is high. Always check your individual situation. Important disclaimer. Before we finish, let me repeat something very important. This video provides general information for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, or official government advice. Wohngeld laws, eligibility requirements, income limits, calculation methods, benefit amounts, required documents, and administrative procedures can change. Your eligibility depends on your individual circumstances, and procedures may also differ between local authorities. Therefore, always check the latest information on the official website of your responsible Wohngeldstelle or Wohngeldbehörde and the relevant official German government authorities before applying or making financial decisions. Do not rely solely on this video or any YouTube video for current eligibility information. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to Germany or you're trying to understand how everyday life and German bureaucracy work, consider subscribing to Life in Germany. On this channel, we talk about practical topics such as Anmeldung, opening a bank account, German identification documents, housing, official applications, and many other things you need to know when building your life in Germany. And if you know someone who is struggling with high housing costs and might benefit from learning about Wohngeld, share this video with them. It might help them discover support they didn't know existed. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video. Welcome to Germany, and welcome to Life in Germany.